Outpost Infinity Siege is by far one of the most unique games I've experienced in quite some time, infusing looter shooter, tower defense, and RTS aspects into this very intricate and deep mechanical game that has been so enjoyable as something fresh and new on the scene. Now this game deserves a bit of time, but it can be quite tricky to get into and to understand some of the basic mechanics. And what we're going to do today is we're going to just give the ultimate beginner's guide and try to step through all the bits and pieces so you can hit the ground running. There'll be particularly some very core aspects to understand early on that are going to be super beneficial and help you enjoy the experience. Let's get into it. One of the very first things we're going to look at is after you complete the tutorial, you'll end up at your base. Now there's so many cool little aspects to this, but one of the most important things that is critical to understand is that there is a part of this map that isn't marked. And this made it very confusing and difficult for me to understand how to progress the main campaign. In fact, I spent the first 20 hours mucking around thinking that this game just had one mode and all this other stuff was not even a part of the game. And I could understand why people were giving it such bad reviews. But really, what we need to understand is that if we head to the hangar, there's this room where we get our missions. Now, it's not marked on the map, but as you head to the hangar, there's this little room here. And this is the room where you'll be getting all your missions. So if we hit on the map, we can't squiggle around, but it actually sits behind the Nexus. Now, sometimes you'll get markers for it. And I believe as we go forward, the markers will be set up properly. But at least just know that you're not sure where you're up to in your missions. Walk towards the hangar and check this room here because this will be your missions. There are so many little details and functionality of this game that are truly what you'd expect in a lot of the first class games, where it also has some issues, of course, being early access, but just little things like, I don't know if you've realized, but you have your history loot record on the board here that you can see at any time. Just a quick little one right there. The other thing is, as you walk around and explore the base the first time, definitely worthwhile doing because you can find and pick up blueprints that are lying around randomly. It's a good idea to explore the base when you get access to it to ensure you pick up those early blueprints. Now, speaking of blueprints, you'll be introduced into the research center, and this holds a very critical aspect to the game where we'll talk to Victor, who is the gatekeeper of our advancement in terms of what we can build and research. Now, in order to get access to new technology, we have to pick up blueprints. Now, a lot of these will be a part of the main mission. Some of these you'll pick up and discover, but as you progress through certain storyline missions, you will gain access to quite a few of these, which you'll then have to research by just clicking on it and then just hitting research down here. Then you will get a list of different things that will take quite some time to research. You don't get them instantly. In some cases you will if it's a part of a mission, but for the most part, when you're doing your own research, you will have to wait. Now, we do have an aspect called efficiency points. You can spend these to increase basically make it an instant upgrade if you have enough points. So we can see here we have 2 bars that are full and then there's 3 bars that are empty. So now if we hold boost, we're going to need 3 efficiency points to speed this up. So if I go ahead and hold this down, there we go. We've got our research complete. Then we can also check the research tab. We get a good idea of what we've already covered and then the research that we will need to do. Also note, we can see here, it gives us an indication of research availability, and this is just referring to the tech level. So here, this is the middle level, so it's researchability 2, and then all these ones down here will be researchability 3, just letting us know that that's a part of the different levels. Going all the way to master will be researchability 5. Then we got the tech points. It tells us how much it will cost and how much it will cost if we want to speed this progress, or how long it's going to take, sorry. So the cost of time is measured in days, and you can pass a day by completing various things in your tour game mode, as well as other game mode will count as progressing days. We'll touch base on this a bit later, but to summarize, playing the game will pass days. I believe that's the only real way you'll progress your technology is by playing. I don't know if it just does it by itself over time. It could be the case as well. Now, in order to get research points, we will come back to that soon. You will be introduced into that early in the game, and it becomes quite an easily recognized mechanism. The other thing to understand is this research blueprint intel. This lets us know how many blueprints are left within each of the areas. So what this is saying is 1 research blueprint left in Snow Ruin. So that means we still got a bit to complete or to find 1 blueprint. This was confusing because when I came across this, it would say there is 2 blueprints left in the border woodland. And for whatever reason, to me, that made sound like it was at the border within the map or something. But just understand that this is just a good reference to help you keep track of how many blueprints are left to collect in each area. Now, in the research section, we also have this character. Now, if you talk to her, she offers a few different functionalities. One of the main ones being manufacturing. Manufacturing is where we will be crafting a whole bunch of all the good stuff that we will need to build in our base. Now, in order to do something like this, we just will simply need to click on the thing that we'd like to manufacture, and we can increase the number down here of how many we would like, and then we press this button down here. So just to give you a quick example, let's build an under turret. Actually, let's build a machine gun, and we'll just click boom. That will create it, and then we can go install it on our base. The other important aspect of this menu is the items, where we can actually craft our items from all the different stuff that we loot. We will be able to use pretty much everything you find in the map that you loot is huge relevance, because you'll need it to craft all the various different things. So for instance, ammo pack, we can see here it's going to tell us that we need 9 ammo boxes and 1 solvent to create an ammo pack. I need to get a few of these, so I'm going to just create 4, and there you go. That's how you would craft. And these items will unlock as you progress. The more you progress throughout the game and find new items, the more items that you'll be able to craft yourself. Now, the next thing in this menu is understanding your weapons. There is so many varieties, combinations, and it is just marvelous. Now, let's have a look at one of my favorite guns and just get an understanding of how this works. Now, to start us off, it's important to understand that guns can have basically like an ability and then buffs. So all these are buffs that you can apply, and you will be finding these as you skirmish around the maps. And you can change these by pressing inject and selecting a different buff. However, some guns for the most part will always have one ability that you cannot change. As you can see here, we've got chain reaction. That is one of the default. You cannot change this on this gun at this time. However, the other 2 abilities we can click on and click inject and change the actual ability, which will still keep the buffs in place. So for instance, this is an energy arc, one of the most interesting abilities that I have one of the best abilities that I've come across so far. And then I've used a different variety of buffs to make it more potent. Now, it's important to understand that these abilities also have their own rarity, but that just gives you an indication that there is different rarities within the abilities themselves, and that will impact their potency. And the same with the buffs. So we can see here, we have the intensity 2 or Tensity Mark 2 or whatever you want to call it. This will greatly increase the radius, but slightly increase the cost. Now we could get Intensity 3. I don't know if it goes to 4, but it gives you an idea that you can also get more potent buffs in the forms of Intensity 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And you'll be collecting these around the map as you go along as well. Now, depending on your gun, you can see here I have 3 of these available. If we pick a more basic gun, you may only have 1 or 2. So Cavalry Core Gun, it just has 2 abilities that it comes with to start with, whereas the more rarer the gun, the more likely it is to be able to support more. So in this instance, we have a command core gun, which actually gives us 4 spots or 4 abilities that we can actually add buffs and change the abilities themselves. Finding guns like that are pretty rare and somewhat localized to the specific type of guns. Now, when we do switch between the guns, you can see that the guns have a little description, which gives basically a general concept or explains what that gun does specifically. So in this case, the explosive core gun. So basically this is saying going to give us a 30% area boost, nice area of effect, which is increased by 30% by just using this gun. That will be applied to the abilities and to the configuration of our weapon. So something else worthwhile to know is that you can see in brackets the corporeal and the pure, and then next to it says deals damage in a frontal fan. So those words have key meaning. So for example, the corporeal means or translates to this particular ability cannot be augmented by a barrel attachment, i.e. by changing the barrel type, whether that barrel type might have a double tap, like shoots 2 bullets with 1 click, or has even a triple tap ability where 3 bullets come out. From my understanding, having the corporeal means regardless of what you change with your barrel, this particular ability, the elemental scatter shot, won't be impacted. Then next to that, we also have pure, and that translates to does not deal weakness damage. So it doesn't do extra damage to weak enemies. And you can see here that the energy arc also has pure. However, if we have a look at some of these other possible, now I was trying to find, there's a couple other types that are available, but I can't seem to find one that have them in brackets. But you'll also see in brackets, I believe, Light Strike, which deals additional low strength damage. There's also Piercing, which deals equal damage to 1% of enemies' max HP. Then there's another one called Elemental Reaction. Not 100% certain what that one does, but we'll come back to that in another tutorial. Also important to note that when you go to inject a different one, say beam, if I inject that, I don't lose the one that was just injected before. So once you find these, you get to keep them and interchange them as much as you want. So I'll go back to Explosive Arrow, and then if I go inject, you'll see I have 3 again. So a really cool feature, and that's why when we move on to the next section, it'll make sense why that's the case. But it's very handy that we can interchange these as much as we need to without costing us anything. And while we're talking about gear, I just wanted to quickly run through through how some of the gear work. Now, what's very unique and awesome about this game is that changing a different barrel can completely change how your gun operates or fires. So for instance, this is a double tap barrel. 2 bullets can be fired in quick succession. Now remember, some abilities won't fire 2 shots because of that augmentation that disables that for that particular skill. Kind of touched on that before. We'll go in that in more detail another time, but just know that different barrels will do different things. For instance, there's a heavy barrel, increases the fire interval and greatly increases the damage dealt. You'll have a barrel that comes with a self-recharging turbine, which when charged, boosts its damage. So you'll have like barrels that are more suited for snipers, more suited for shotgun sort of range, just to give you an idea. Same goes for the sight. So many variety of different sights that will do so many different things. Comes with increased zoom, features the latest auto aim technology. So it goes on and on. So there's so many different combinations and different things your gear can do. And same with your helmets. They'll also come with abilities. And these are all pretty much passive, which means they'll just be working in the background. But that's just to give you a very quick insight into, and as mentioned before, there's so many little, very well thought out mechanics within this game. And the beautiful thing is as you muck around with your game, you can go to the shooting range. Now, the shooting range will not be unlocked until you progress to a certain stage within the campaign, which is pretty early on. But what you can do is you can click on shooting range. You can change your loadout to whatever you want, test different combinations, weapons, whatever you want, you name it, you can do that. And then you can go confirm and you can actually test out the weapon that you're trying to muck around with. So this is a really nice, very helpful feature, and it gives you so much flexibility. We can move our enemies away. We can move them forward. We can reset statistics. We can see how much damage they're doing, if at all, if I can even hit them. But it gives you a really good idea. And the thing is, up here on the wall, it's going to tell you the statistics. Absolutely perfect way to really get a good gauge of how potent your weapons are. Close in 10 meters again. Bring them right up front. There you go. And then we'll just fire it, kill it. Okay. Oh, we can. Okay, there it's gone. So now they don't automatically reset yet, but what we can do is just go reset targets. So that gives you a good idea of the shooting range. We'll just duck back to the return to base by hitting escape and go into your menu and hitting return to base. So from the tech center, you could come back and you could go back and modify your weapon again and give it a test. Now, as you progress through the game, so you'll be able to go to your Xen Reforge as well. Now you get access to that as you progress through the campaign. And this is an interesting mechanic because what it is, it's kind of like not like a slot machine, but it's a way you can trade in some of your very common abilities and buffs on the chance of getting a new or an advanced or upgraded buff or skill. Now, the interesting thing about this reforging is that some of these abilities you will not find walking around in the game. You'll only find them through recycling your unneeded abilities and buffs. So that's a really cool mechanic. So we could go to all the way up to legendary and to the next tier above that. But you could come here, you would select it, and you'd say you get 16 points. And the more points we have here, the more we will get in terms of abilities and buffs. So let me give you an example. We'll go over to the rare, and we only need 3 points. So you can see here the points. We'll try find one that we have plenty of. Okay, let's go this one. We have 4 of this. So points 8, right? So the minimum 3 points will get us 1 bar, which will still allow us to click reforge, where we'll only get pretty much 1 buff or skill. However, if we increase this and go all the way to 16, we will get 5. So we'll hit reforge and then we get 5 different ones. And you can see here we get the extract 1. So this is actually giving us the more improved version. And you can do this all the way up to the rarest category. A really cool mechanism where you can actually get better and unique abilities and buffs that you wouldn't otherwise find. So always hang on to these. You'll find them around the map because you can recycle them and get something special, which is one of the beautiful aspects of this game. Nothing is wasted. Everything has meaning. But we'll leave the research lab and we're going to head over to the barracks. Now, the barracks, you'll find these guys just continually pumping weights like demons, absolute monsters non-stop. But the person we want to see is over here. So Sophia, and we've got squad management. So we'll start there. So another really fascinating and awesome aspect to this game is you will get up to 50 different characters. Now, these characters will be random, which we'll come to very shortly, but they'll all have unique abilities. Some will have the same. For instance, these 2 characters have the exact same abilities pretty much. Okay, slightly different abilities, but you can get some that are exactly the same. But for the most part, they'll all have different traits, and traits can really supercharge your character, and it's something that you cannot change, but it's something you can upgrade. So say for my main character, it's only got 3 slots, which is also an indication of its rarity. So even your characters have rarities from common, rare, legendary, and then epic or whatever it is for the last rarity. And if you get one like that, so let's have a look through all the different characters quickly. We can see here Korra almost is what we'd consider, well, is a legendary, and this being quite rare, but you can see various different abilities or traits, I should say, that make this character unique to play and a unique experience for certain scenarios, builds, etc. So a lot of mix and matching in terms of min-maxing and intricacies between characters, loadouts, and your overall strategy. Now, the beautiful thing is we can go to traits, and then we can even upgrade and progress and make the traits even more potent at the cost of points. Now, you get these points from doing missions and gaining XP with the characters, allowing you to unlock more abilities that basically enhance the initial ability. So we have Power Slash, draws your blade and dash towards the enemy, gaining guard for 5 seconds and a 60% damage reduction. Then we can, on top of that, add Power of the Fist. Hitting the enemy with a melee attack reduces the Power Slash cooldown by 1 second. So that's just an example. So each character has some really cool traits that you can then upgrade, make them even more potent. The other cool aspect of the squad management window is that we can go into backpack and start loading our character out if they are not deployed. We'll come back to being deployed later, but you can see here we have the ability to change our loadout in this window as well. We also have the option to look at some of these different Xens that we can attach and look at to apply to our character. And then we have other, which is just all the other equipment that you might want to take out on a tour or a siege or what have you. Bringing your attention back to some of the stats now, we can see here we have HP, armor, all the usual stuff that you would expect to find in an FPS. Now, the better the character and you level them up, the more this becomes more potent, but you'll have better base stats generally from the more rarer squad members. But all this can be boosted and changed from your gear, and that's really the main focus of where these stats will change will be dependent on your gear. So your HP, if you have better armor, will increase your HP and armor, of course, and your defense. You have shoes or different boots that will increase your movement speed, etc. Now, if we click on recruitment, I'll just do that again. So we can click on recruitment, which will take us to the recruitment screen, or we can just go recruit. So 2 ways to navigate there, and we can just hit recruit. Now, this is where we will actually get a random recruit through the process of doing stuff within the game. Here we have our first or one of many recruits, and we can see he has 5 abilities. So I think that puts him at about a rare category. But we can have a look. It's got some pretty cool different abilities that are unique to this character. We'll go confirm, and we can only recruit when we have recruiting points. Then we have the drill ground. So the drill grounds is a really cool function that will help you level up your characters, give them experience while you're doing other activities. So you don't have to go and level all your characters. There's many ways you can level them up without having to play them. So very handy functionality. Now, they'll only level up from you doing tours. Not all categories will actually impact their level improvement, but you'll notice as you do tours, they will be leveled up slowly. The longer you leave them in there, the more they will level up. You can also interchange them by pulling them out, clicking on the plus, and then selecting another one that doesn't have the S, one that's available. Then you can add them here, and they will start training. Also up here, you'll see 12. That's an indication of how many characters or associates, whatever you want to call them, we have. That's a quick rundown of the barracks. That is pretty much the main reason you'd be coming here. Now, if we go to map, that's why we're here. A really important thing that I did not realize for quite some time is that we have some quick navigation at the top of the menu. So we can go, say, if we want to go manufacture something, we can just click manufacture. It'll take us straight to the screen where we want to manufacture. We hit X. We are still within the barracks. We haven't moved. You can see here, we're still in the barracks. And then we can do the same with the various other areas. So very, very handy feature. Definitely well thought out. If from the barracks, we're going to head over to the trade post or the trade port. So the trade port is a really cool area that you'll unlock after a few of the main campaign missions. You'll be able to shop, purchase things, and it's a really good way to get certain materials in bulk, saving you a lot of time. It does require you to spend your hard-earned coin, which you will get from doing the main storyline missions, a bunch of different things. Pretty much everything will earn you money. You can sell items as well, but we'll come to that. Now we have this cool fun. Not only that, once we bought everything from the store, we can also choose to spend money to then refresh it and see if we get lucky with some better stuff. It is complete random, so you won't know if you're getting what you're getting until you hit reroll. But let's say this is just a good example. We're going to buy a bunch of stuff, hit it to max. A lot of these materials are really great to buy because you need so much of them and it saves you a ton of time overall. We can hit refresh again, and this will increase as the more you refresh it, just so you know. So the more you refresh, the more you'll get, but sometimes you get some really rare things that cost a lot but are awesome to buy because it saves you so much time. I'll just re-roll just to give you another example to see. Yeah, see, here we go. A healing grenade launcher. Now, this is perfect because I do not have one of these in my base right now, and I've been desperately trying to get one, but I need to research it. So we're going to get one of these for sure, saving me a ton of time and giving me a really cool functionality on the battlefield. So that's a quick rundown of that shop. Now, as you progress through the campaign, you'll have specialty shops. Now, the ammo shop is pretty much always here. You'll be able to purchase ammo and different things depending on what is in stock. And again, you can refresh and keep purchasing. You also have the ability to sell items. We can also have the merchant. Now, the merchant is generally always here, and this is where you can swap out items that you find randomly on the battlefield and trade them for goods. So you can see here, superconductive material, we can change it for basic material. So very handy function for all this excess stuff that you can end up finding that you have, a good way to trade it and balance it out. Now, you'll sometimes randomly get random shop owners here that have a very unique stuff to trade. Now, this is really cool because you'll find these very rare or somewhat rare items that you can trade for something like a cruiser cannon, which is much more of a late game. This is the red is I'm pretty sure red is the rarest material you can get or type of thing you can get, but a very cool store. And again, leaning towards everything having meaning and purpose. But just note that these shopkeepers will not be here until you progress through the story. Now, not only do we have the shops just here, we can also go and look at our entire inventory and also sell stuff. So we can talk to Lucas over here, who is on the map right here in your base warehouse, which you can teleport to here, or click base warehouse and it will take you straight to the inventory. We can talk to Lucas. Now, there's a few important things to understand about this game. It has some brutal impacts where you can completely lose your character and gear if you die on the battlefield. The stakes have never been higher, but what you can do is you can get insurance on your gear, which from my understanding will put your gear back into your inventory if you lose it on the battlefield. Now, there is a way to recoup your characters for the most part. Sometimes you can't, or sometimes if you leave it too long, you won't be able to, but we'll come back to that. So for instance, we have a gun, we can hit insure and we'll insure it for this amount of money and 80, and we can go confirm. So you can see here, it's got a little plus there. It means it's insured. Then again, we'll just click insured, click confirm, and we've got that insured. Now you can do this pretty much with all your gear, all your actual stuff that you can lose. So if we go to gear, you can see here, it all has insurance. Pretty cool function. I really like this, but it does mean the stakes are high and it's something to be mindful of. Now, the other thing is there's a few very handy sub menus, which just breaks everything down into categories. Now it looks all messy. You can hit sort and there you go. It puts it all into a specific category, makes it very easy to look at things, or you can completely self-manage this yourself into specific orders and it will keep those orders that you sorted. You can also change things around if you want to move things, and again it will keep the sort of your choosing. Now we can also sell items, giving us income. You can see here we can hit control and then click left click and then it will quick sell. Alternatively, we can right click and go sell, and then you can see here the total value. We can go boom, sell. Tell you up on the right hand corner what it is you've just sold and how much. You can also do batch selling. I haven't actually tried batch selling. I'm just curious to see what that does. So well, you can sell all your gear within its rarity. So that's a pretty neat feature, and it's just the more common ones. So we've got common, superior, exquisite. Doesn't obviously include the more rarer ones because we probably never really want to sell those in bulk, at not least in this stage. That's a quick rundown of your base warehouse. Now going back to the main map by pressing M, we'll move on to the medical center. Now this is where we were talking about how you can lose your character. Well, you can also rehabilitate them for the most part, but I believe if you leave it too long, they do disappear. So if you do die in battle, you can come to the rehabilitation center and at the cost of some money or gold, you will be able to get that character back. But keep in mind, you'll lose that gear if it's not insured. Now, that's a quick rundown of the medical center, at least at the beginning. That's all you kind of really need to know. Now, there are some other buildings here. I haven't progressed far enough to explain them, but we'll touch base on that in another tutorial. The other building worth noting is the intelligence center. So the intelligence center has some interesting things you can come back to and learn and read about. We have the risk assessment system. Now, these risks are in particular to do with your touring, which we'll explain in a little bit, but it tells you all the different things that you can get in the risk assessment. And basically that's just like a wild card or a card that you get at the end of each tour. At the end of each area you visit, you may get one of these risk assessment systems that can be applied at various stages of your playthrough of a tour. That will make more sense. We'll come back to that in a little bit. Here we have Nightingale. Now Nightingale offers a very interesting aspect to the game as well, where we have our operatives and we can dispatch our operatives onto missions themselves. So for instance, we can set them onto a mission where our tech division requires samples, and for completing this mission, we will get these materials, organic solvent ×3. So a really good way to keep your unused operatives, characters in use, even when you don't need to use them. It'll also give them XP and help level them up, and it will get you materials at the same time. So let's dispatch Frederick here, and you got 2 days remaining. So 2 days will pass quite quickly during your tour, and you can get rarer items as you get further into this, but they'll have a higher level requirement for your character. If they're too low, you won't be able to use them, or they might not have the right specialization. Not all characters will have specializations. That's more of an advanced thing, but we'll come back to that another time. Now, you will unlock these areas as you progress through the game, and I'm hoping there's a few more, but for the moment now, all I can see is 4. Now, the other thing to note is on completing, you have 2 options. You can claim the base reward or enter hazard. Now, we'll run through and give you an example of what it is, but basically it gives you a chance to get extra rewards at the cost of potentially losing your operative, which I believe you can then rehabilitate from the medical center. We're going to click enter hazard. So collect research samples. Local altitude is high. Some operatives may experience adverse reactions due to the oxygen deficiency. We've got personalize, reorganizator, reevaluates and reselects personnel for the mission. Success rate is 67%. Death chance is medium. But keep that in mind. You can lose your operatives. And this is the rewards we will get. And keep note at the top right hand there, you'll get a death rate, a chance of 32%. So he should survive this. We'll give it a crack. Mission complete. So we completed it. He didn't die, but we get the extra bonuses. So in this case, we got all these different things, which helps us out a lot more, saves us some time. But again, we can lose our operative. The higher level they are, the more likely they are not to die. But some things to keep in mind when you enter this area. So now again, we could select Avery and dispatch them, come back in 2 days and repeat this process. It's a good thing to come and check on this after every tour, because you'll be able to dispatch some more operatives. And as mentioned before, it's really worthwhile exploring because you will find blueprints around your base. So very handy to just check your base. That was one I haven't found. And next we'll come to the hangar. Now the hangar is where we can build our base. This is such a fun, creative aspect to this game. I've spent hours upon hours building my base. Not to mention, I've probably nearly clocked 80 hours in already, but it takes so much effort and grinding to get to this sort of stage that you do get a lot of value out of what you've put in, because you get to create some amazing and very well thought out bases with a lot of strategy behind placement. For example, there's so many different things you can do to increase the health of your individual pieces. So you can see here it's 900. The base health is only 500. You can put things on called the amp rack, which will increase the health. Also has health itself. Then on top of that, you can stack things on it, which means this can take a lot more punishment, as there's a lot of health that has to get hit or it can actually hit the utility tile. But besides that, just a quick rundown of this menu so you have an understanding. So from here, we can also go straight to the manufacturer by clicking this button here. Now, I did not realize this for quite some time, so just note you can click this, boom, you're at the manufacturing, you can do it, you hit escape, and then you're back at your base. So a really quick navigating between what you need to manufacture, to build, all in one area. It's super fantastic, really nice feature. Now, the other thing to note is you have your skins, which you can unlock as you progress through the game. There's certain things you might find that will be skins, or you might have to do certain things. Haven't really worked out how the skins work exactly, but you will find them throughout the game. You do come with some basic ones to start with. The best being the Pure Massacre. Absolutely sensational. Now, I do have a filter on my screen, so it probably looks a bit different to how it would look for you, but it just gives you an idea. But fantastic idea. I really hope we either get to potentially make our own skins or just get some more skins as the game develops. So not only can you make it look pretty, but we get to configure all the different weapons. Now, this is super important. So what you can do is you can actually micro your buildings. Now, I always micro my command center or the core tower to control 1. Oh, apologize. This is not the mode where you would control your groups. This is the mode where you would click on your weapons and you can double click them to select all, or click them individually, and you can adjust the turret settings. Now, this is freaking ridiculous functionality where we get to completely control how the tower performs. Do we want it to fire just in front of it with a lowering its max range, or do we want it to fire as far as possible? What enemies should it be targeting? For instance, you might want your artillery, or if you had artillery, I don't have artillery just yet, but if you wanted to, you could just get them to target the most biggest and baddest units because they do the most damage and they're perfect for taking out those type of units. So you have complete functionality of how you control your towers and what their purpose is. You also have the different ammo that you can see here. It's got what it's telling us right here is that it's firing interval of 3 seconds, ammo cost 40. So all the different towers, just a bit of ammo information there. Now there are different types of ammo, but we'll leave that for another time. But it's such a fantastic ability that you kind of expect in strategy games where you can control your units, in this case our towers, or a tower defense game where you can also set them to do very specific tasks. Now we can also micro them as mentioned. Now I believe we can actually do that here. So we can do that here, my bad. So you can click control num key. So click here, control 1. I can set these to control 2. Oh, hold on. I've changed my control button. That is why. So if I want this to be control 1, there we go. And then I can set these. So it should be when we exit. Oh, you can't sort of do it in the game, but you can set these to hotkeys and that will come so much in handy down the track, because you will need to micro, just like in a strategy game, your base. So that's the configure mode. We also have the photo mode where we can put on some filters and take some cool shots of our base with a variety of different filters. Now it will look different for you because I do have a reshade on, which does change it. I'll just quickly turn it off and on. If you are interested in the reshade, I can put that up on ModDB or one of the modding sites, so you can use it as well. Now the building mechanics or how you construct your base, my biggest tip is when you go to do it, you can press F, which gives you the X-ray view of the ground floor. I highly suggest you build your ground floor first, then your next level, and so on and so forth. The reason being is it can be quite complicated to try attach things down the bottom here, or particularly level 2 if you are building multi-story, when everything's all put together. Because say if I need to start putting something down here, I just need to zoom in and get under there myself. At least that's my understanding of it. But you can see here, you can do it and it's quite easy, but just something to note. If you do plan a well thought out base, I would build it level by level possible, just to save a bit of time. The general mechanics though are very easy. You can just click on it, click to remove it, the mouse wheel button to spin them. If you want to remove them, you just hover your mouse over it, hit X, and it's gone. Don't even have to click it. So quite an intuitive build. Now there are always a little bit of problems when you're trying to reattach something like this, for example, but you got to remember, see how there's all these squares? You want to put your mouse on those cubes, and that's going to help you easily attach all your bits and pieces. So that's a really good way of lining up your build, or when you're trying to place something, is with the cubes. So very intuitive, very easy, and very well thought out. Absolute blast building. I'll do a more advanced build guides later, but just to give you a good idea, you can also just press these to have a bit of more of a breakdown of the different categories. So that gives you a good idea of how it sort of goes. It does give you the value over here as well. That's important to note, and give you some indication of sort of where you're at with your build and can go up against to some degree. But it also gets achievements and things like that as you get higher value. We'll come to these other numbers very soon, but we can also go save and exit, confirm. Now the other thing is you can have multiple layouts. So we can start a new layout, or we can select a layout. So you can have different layouts saved. Say this one, which isn't anything, but we can go to an older one where I've had a very basic setup. So it's cool. You can have many different loadouts for your base. Very, very cool. But make sure that the loadout that you have selected is the one you want to use, but you will get an option to change that anyway before you go in. So we want to go back to select layout, select the last one I was using. Now the photo hasn't been updating for me, but it was previously. So just keep that in mind. There we go. So now we're back to the huge base, and that's it. So we can go escape now. But the other thing you can do here is go show off. Now this is a really cool way, like a little cinematic of showing off your crazy base build. It's freaking wild. I don't mind, it's a big strong red because of my filter, but you can see here, you can basically get a cinematic of your base. Very cool, and definitely worthwhile giving it a go because you put so much time and effort into this. Why not show it off? Doesn't matter, spinning effect. So it's freaking wild. Really appreciate how they've done this. Also gives you a bit of a breakdown of all the components, and it's going to go through and break down these components and look at everything. So such a fascinating, cool aspect to this game, but a nice little touch. But yeah, that's just one of those things you can do in this to kind of show it off. But yeah, this will go through and pretty much run through everything, all the different bits you've attached. So pretty unreal. Takes a while, but pretty cool. But one of the things I really wish I understood when I first started playing this was understanding these three things here. So we'll start with the core outpost. Boost all turret damage, expands container space, increases radius of X boost field, which is a field around your base that gives your operatives and your towers and everything more damage. And also the core outpost will give you a defense. So a very, very critical aspect game. Now you increase your core outpost by doing various different things, by increasing the size, building new things, particularly adding generators. Another way you can do it, your core outpost. You can see here, this gives plus 10. So you need lots and lots of small generators. Now you get different types of generators, I believe, later on, but right now I only have the small one. I believe there is a few other things that will increase the core output, or core outpost, I should say, later on. But for now, it's just the generators. So it's super important to focus your production on creating generators and then to expand your power. Now, power is needed for the touring aspect, being able to get around the map, do quick tours and stuff like that. This will make more sense down the track when we get to the tour part of this, but you really need to focus on getting batteries. Batteries are crucial because what that does is increase your power. Now, keep in mind, the more you build, the more material and in some cases power will be used. So basically, you need to focus on batteries, generators, and then materials. Now, materials are these little boxes here, material crates, that will increase how much materials you can store. Now, a lot of these are just out of pretty basic materials that you can get quite a lot of. But if you don't focus on these and focus more on your weapons first or other aspects of your building, it's going to put you at a huge disadvantage. Now, these are just your basic caps. So if I remove this crate here, you can see this number goes down. So you do need a ton of batteries, rates, and generators to increase these numbers here. Keeping in mind that every time you build something, it can take away from your power and your crates and in what it is, even your core outpost. So these have a huge impact on the game and it will make a little bit more sense as we go through the tutorial, but we'll just have a quick look at the manufacturing side of things. So let's take a look at the small generator. So small generator, scrap metal, which you'll find or can buy, automotive capacitor, superconductor material. Unfortunately, you can't craft a lot of this stuff, so you will have to go out and find it. But the best way to do this is just to buy it from the shop as well as going around and looting as much as possible early on. Same with the battery, very similar thing. You will need organic solvent, capacitor, scrap metal. So you'll need these, get it the same way, and then material crate, basic material, lumber. So you can go up to trees and harvest trees, and polymer. Focus on these three things. Make it the most important part of your objective when you first start out. Absolute critical to helping you get or grow exponentially or making this whole process more enjoyable and faster. That's just a little quick tip there. We're going to go into this in more detail in another tutorial, but just understand these are super important. You want to be focusing on growing your power, material, and core outpost as priority over your weaponry, but you do have to balance it out to make sure that you can cope with the waves and enemies you're coming up against. Something to keep in mind. Okay, so that brings us back to the Nexus. Now, this is where we get into the core and the guts of the game. Now, when you first start off, you will not have this beautiful AI. You will have, check her out. Oof, I'm so glad they've got an attractive girl in this game. You will be only able to access the terminal when you first start off, which will give you access to the tour mode. But as you progress, you will be able to venture into these other different modes. We'll come back to the tour mode, which is basically the foundation of your progress and one of the main things you'll be doing. But it also offers this assist others, where we can join other people doing their tour mode. And we can also create our own tour mode where people can join us. So there's a lot of availability to meet new people, talk to new people, and get in a game with others. Really cool. I'm going to be doing a lot more of this soon. I haven't spent any time doing it yet. The other thing to note is that you do get shared loot now. So the shared loot system is stuff that you put in your command center or your core and gets retrieved. I believe that duplicates and gets shared to both of you. The Infinity Siege, which I absolutely love right now, is the dire situation. This is an infinite cycle of tower defense. Absolute spectacular, fun way to do it. You don't get a lot of loot, but you do get some really good loot from doing it, but it's more just a fun way of testing your base, your strategy, your loadouts for your character. Definitely a lot of fun. I haven't unlocked the Darkest Before Dawn, which I imagine is just a much more intense version of it, which is scary because this is pretty damn crazy. Next, we have base management. So base management is a really neat functionality where we can assign operatives to the specific building. So for instance, the research center, I've applied a bunch of operatives to this center, and you can see here, it tells me what I get for doing that. So I'm on level 4, so I get a tech progress cost -1. So each thing that I want to purchase and tech up, it's just going to cost me 1 less point. And basically a lot of this is to do with reducing how much research points you'll need, time, etc. Same can be said for all the various other buildings. You can assign unused operatives that will be able to help you get a foothold or increase whatever you're trying to do, whether it be better experience from the intelligence center or a variety of different things you can do. So another good one is putting it on the trade port, reduce cost. A very potent one a lot of people would use fairly early on to give you a good boost. But another good way to use your operatives that are just AFK or when that you're not using.
Also note that operatives will have traits that can also help with this research. So say this particular operative has a HR skill 1, so slightly increases the barracks efficiency. It would be better off or has potential better benefit to assigning and allocating operatives based on their related traits. So in this instance, we would assign this operative to the barracks, which will increase its efficiency. So just something to keep in mind. They do have traits and it can be a good idea to assign them accordingly based off their traits.
So definitely take some time and have a look at all the different varieties of things you can do. But another fantastic way of utilizing every aspect of your operatives that will help you speed up the progress of your game. Now we're going to go check the tour mode. Now the tour mode is the crux of this game. This is where you'll be looting, finding blueprints. And as you click on tour mode, I'm going to ask you to confirm your outpost, which you can modify. So if I'm not happy with this outpost, I loaded up the wrong base layout, I can go modify and change it, but I'm happy with it. So I'll click confirm. We also have the option to change our character between the different ones that are available that aren't currently assigned to all the various things that we've covered before. So lots of flexibility on what we want to choose before we go into a tour. A backpack, we get to pick out our loadout and other weapons. Now being a tour, make sure you bring plenty of ammo. Ammo is very rare at the start, becomes very easy to get later on, but make sure you're always bringing some ammo with you, some extra health from each tour, and most importantly, bring lockpick, key cards if you have them, all those sort of goods, because you're going to need a whole bunch of different things to get through these tours. But for instance, we'll just go confirm and we'll go confirm operative. Now this is where you'll start off. You'll go through the tutorial and you start off at Windy Desert. And as you get through the campaign and missions, you'll go up all the way up to the hard mode. So they have an increase in difficulty. But you can see here, even though it says easy, we can go confirm area. It also has other difficulty that will increase the risks and also some of the buffs that you get in the different difficulties. So you can see here in difficulty 2, we have less enemy types. Difficulty 3 increases the different enemies, making it more difficult. The enemy power is typically linked to the actual different lands. So if we click normal, we can see the powers increased to 4,000, whereas Borderland is 2,500. Now, the maximum recovery time is important. And as you can see here, as you go into normal, there's more recovery time. So basically, the longer you have to last out. But we're just going to go through a run through the border woodlands. I'm going to explain a few things as we go through. We're going to put this at difficulty 3. I'm going to go confirm area. I haven't configured my guy out the best way I'd want to. So we'll click the tour config, but before we do that, you get an option to go public, private. So if you go public, other people will be able to join as you go through. Now they will only be able to join through each of the different stages, but they'll be able to come and join you, which is a really nice functionality. You can also get your friends in, but plenty of option there to get amongst other people. So I didn't get my config the right way I wanted, so I'll just go change. I've got the right guy I want, no worries. Then we'll go backpack. You might throw in some more ammo, which we'll click other. We'll just dump some boxes here. So we'll grab a few things that we need. I've actually got the wrong operative. I just selected the wrong operative. So the thing to note is your gear will stay with the operative that you have it selected to. It doesn't transfer over. If you do want to transfer it over, in this instance, what you would have to do is you'd have to go change. I'd have to select my previous operative, go confirm. And this is to change the armor. I'd have to throw all the armor back into here. Just for example, I'd throw that into here and then I'd go change, select the other operative that I want, go to backpack, and then find it in here and give it to this person. So just keep that in mind. The armor won't change. Just to understand that your armor is linked to the operative. The only time it will change is when you change it manually. So however I've set this character up in their backpack is how it is. And that's why it's pretty cool, because that means you can run certain operatives for certain things. But in this case, we'll just use this guy. Backpack, we've got some ammo, get a few more ammo. We got some health though. Probably some lockpicks, some key cards if you need it. Now lockpicks are handy because you'll need those to get through a lot of the different doors. So for instance, here we go, lockpicks. So always bring some lockpicks along. You can shoot and blow up most of the doors. So you don't always need lockpicks, but it's just good to have them along. So we'll hit confirm. Now we're happy with this. We'll confirm operative. We'll click the border woodlands, confirm area. We're going to select our difficulty. Now the difficulty will also tends to lead to better loot. So it's a good thing to consider to do. The higher the difficulty, the better loot. We're going to make this private. We're going to hit start. Now it says your operatives have left the base. Aborting the tour early will cause your operatives to go missing in action and lose. Once we lock into this and we come into this area, you can abandon the tour, or in the new patch, you should be able to abandon the tour without your operative going missing in action. But once we come to the map and we go to a location, complete that location, we can't exit or leave this tour until we complete the full cycle. Now, what this map is basically the idea, or what the objective here is, to try get through as many of these points within the tour as we can before we run out of power. Now, power and materials are pretty much the biggest thing you want to focus on. But as mentioned, we've covered that in the outpost section, or the base building section, of explaining why and what they do and serve. So coming back to the map, we want to try get through as much as we can. Now, depending on the location, you can see this costs 24 power. This one is unknown until we capture this area or complete this area. Now, for the purpose of this, I'll just go instant loot, which means we do not have to visit this area. We can just go instant loot. And here we have the instant reward. So each area you clear, you will get an instant reward you can choose. And that is going to it's either going to be a benefit, a buff, a reward of some kind that will either help you throughout the tour or on your extraction day. And that will make more sense soon. But for instance, extraction day, I mean exploration day. So that's the last bit of this whole tour. So for here, we have 20 components, HP have 20%. So that's good to buff your base. But here we can get on exploration day, gain a buff that increases attack by 5 points for 10 stacks. Decrease 1 stack every 10 seconds. So this is for the operative and this is for the outpost. So for me, I'm going to go the outpost. And here we go. We get the instant loot. We didn't have to go and scrounge around to get these. We can hit OK. And that opens up these two next points. And again, it requires power to be able to progress. The higher the power, generally the better the area. Now, a lot of the times for these more higher powered areas, you do want to explore yourself because you will get more loot. It just takes more time. You can keep losing the instant loot. And that is a very good mechanism to abuse and use to progress a lot faster. But in order to do that, you need to be able to get to a point where you have a lot of power and materials, but more specifically power to jump around the map. Now, the reason you'd need more material is because you would need a bigger base to be able to get through as many of these different locations as you want. What a lot of people tend to do is just do a few of these locations and then go to exploration day and leave with only completing a few of these sections. But that's something for a more advanced tutorial. The next part, we're just going to go and I'm going to give you a rundown of how the actual loot system works. So in this tour mode, we'll hit here. We can see that it's a small supermarket, so that tends to have better loot. The different locations tend to have certain or more likelihood of rarer items. The small supermarket is a great one. The railway station, less so. And you'll learn over time which ones are some of the best ones. But definitely a good one is the small supermarket. So we're going to go proceed. And that's going to launch us into this first little bit. Okay, so here we are. We load it in. Now, when I first started playing this, I would use the scan function to scan the area to see where I need to loot. But now I play this game quite a lot. I know where I need to loot, so I don't use this too much, but it's a good and handy trick to find out where things are. Now, the reason you probably shouldn't use this when you first start off is that it consumes power. And power is kind of critical to progressing further into each tour. But for the purpose of this, we will use this as we need to. So we can see here, we've started here. Now we can go check this loot. So these little diamonds are going to tell us or give us an indication of location of where things are, but also the rarity. White being the most common, green the next, and then purple being rare. And then orange is like one we're more looking for. And you can also spot, we do the scan again. We can also spot sometimes the schematics or the blueprints, I should say.
Now, unfortunately, as far as I'm aware, you can't tell the difference between a blueprint. It will be a diamond along with everything else that you'll be collecting. Sometimes the missions, though, will put a marker on them for you to pick up. So it is a matter of going and searching. Now, a lot of the time, the blueprints will be purple markers, if not orange or red. But otherwise, this gives us a good indication of where we might want to loot or where we can go. So we can see over here, there's something quite rare. And over here, there is plenty of little bits and pieces. So all these little things is what we'll need to build our base, to make components. And this is a part of the cycle of the loot and the shoot. So we'll head down and we'll head it over to this orange area first. Now you can get around quite quickly depending on how you got your gear, but there is a sliding mechanism common to many of the SPS games. So we'll run over to this section and you will come across guys. Now the difficulty of these guys will increase as you go along. And why we're here, it's important to understand the boundary. So the boundary is this thing here. If we step out of it, this giant thing will come down and kill us instantly. You do not go out of bounds for very long, otherwise you will die. Now those spider things will jump at you. I'll just give you a quick demonstration, just one of them. Now you can...
The enemy has spotted you.
So they'll blow up like that. Now when you first start off, that will kill you. but I've got quite a good shield and stuff, so it doesn't. But that gives you an idea of what they do. Watch out for those. They're very deadly and will scare the bejeebers out of you at the start. Here we have these comm stations. Now, comm stations, they're going to give you one of those risk rewards that is applied to pretty much the exploration day. That will make more sense as we go through this sort of tutorial. So we know there's some rare stuff up there. Now, when you first start in, you probably won't be able to jump up into here, but I'll just give you a quick tip. You can jump up onto here, and then you should be able to jump up to here. Before we do that, if we press tab, we can hit and click on the ammo, and then we can press G to load that in. Okay, so there's 2 stages to reloading. There's opening the ammo case, so G to reload, or R for you, depending on how you have it set up. Okay, so we want to get up here. So there's a glass there, but you can jump onto the side here, and you can get up that way. Then you can come up here and loot. Now there's a bit of a trick to this area where we can go through these different rooms. Got to be careful of other objects. So we're not sure where things are. You would just go through all the different rooms, but for us, we're just going to save time and hit the scan button, and then we can see exactly where the good loot is. You can see it's up here. It's some key cards. Key cards are used to get through the various doors. Now, before they weren't kept in your inventory, but now they are. So any key cards you pick up, you'll be able to keep and take them back with you. So that's a quick little loot of this area. And you can see there's a few other things that are down here that we'll grab, which is a chest, which has some armor in it. Now, this screen here is really handy because on the left-hand side, we see the item we're about to pick up versus the armor we already have attached or that we're wearing. So it's really handy, helpful, quick screen to let us know the difference between what we're picking up and what we have. Then you have the options to pick up, hold, or equip. So I'm just going to pick that up. Now, even if you don't use it, you can always just grab it because you can scrap some of the gear that you have or have excess of and make it more useful for you. So that's just a quick loot of this area. So that's getting some of the better loot. So the main mission of here is to explore and collect the composite fiber container. So we can't leave this area until we get that thing. But you can see here, it's nicely marked on the map for us. So a lot of the time, your objectives will be marked on the map. So you can go straight to those points, select it, and move on. So we'll just head straight over to that area. And you can see as we get closer, it's counting down the proximities in meters. Very nice handy feature that you find in most FPS games. And we can just run over and we will grab this part that we need. And you can see here, the objective is complete. Now, you could go ahead and loot all this other stuff, and that's what you would normally do depending on where you are in the game. Sometimes it's better not to. You don't necessarily need to or want to keep everything, get everything. Me, personally, I always did. It does take a lot of time to do that, but there are ways to speed that process up. It's important to know that as you get into your base, you can access the core tower on any level. You do not necessarily need to have this open. You could just have that whole part or the bottom of this base completely closed off, and you can come up to here and you can click on your core tower just from here. You can go open container. Now, in order to complete this mission or this section of this map, we just need to drop the composite into the recovery area, and then we can go regular recovery or quick recovery. Now, regular recovery is very good to use at the start as it doesn't cost you any power, which means you can do more maps and more loot and grinding. Quick recovery, from my understanding, just makes this process a bit quicker in terms of the time and how long it takes. So now we can just straight away go end exploration, and that will be this sort of map complete. And then we would get a choice to get an incident reward. So we want stuff that is good for recovery day. When recovery day ends, double 3 stacks of the component regent equal to above purple. So that's a nice one to have. So there's lots of different bonuses you could get and you can pick. And again, you would complete this process going around looting and grinding, getting the various materials, completing the various missions, getting the various blueprints. And once you can go no further and you're out of power, or you just want to leave, you would hit return to base. Now we'll come back to returning to base in a moment, but you can see here day 3. So you know how we were saying there was research time that it took to research certain things? Well, each time you visit one of these is a day, considered a day, which is going to speed up your research items that you're researching to help you progress. So doing tour will really help speed up your research, which allows you to build better things. So you can see how getting through your tour quite quickly, doing instant loot, quite beneficial because it gets through faster, but that's more of an advanced thing. We won't go too much more into that, but we're going to go and return to base. So what's really important to understand about this is depending on how much stuff you have, if we put it all in, see here at the top, this is indicating how difficult it is to be able to get this stuff home so that you actually have it and it's yours. So we didn't really loot much. So we have here 90 seconds and we don't really have enough loot to really tip the balance here. But say if we were to fill this whole thing full of loot, that is going to push this all the way to 400 seconds, meaning the difficulty is going to be much harder than it is if we're just on here. So it's really important to understand, and this here is some sort of boss indication, but this is a really important system to understand. The more loot you get, the more hard it is to be able to get that loot home.
And also note that boss icon, you will have missions where you need to get enough loot to trigger the boss. So what that means is we'd have to get enough loot to go all the way up to that icon, that symbol that signifies a boss in order to complete the mission. We'd obviously have to win as well, but you'll come across that a few times as part of the campaign.
But I'm going to just give you a rundown. So we'll go full fleet. So once confirmed, items in the field storage will be removed after the operation starts. So this stuff is basically the stuff we want to take back to the base, take back to home for us to use later in manufacturing and building. So we'll go full fleet, but also understand that we only have one event or one risk incident that is applied because we only did a couple different locations. Normally you would have quite a few of these, but we just have one applied. So this is letting us know that this one is applied for the exploration day. We'll go core fleet. Just before we do that, we'll note that the estimated time for recovery is only 90 seconds. That will increase if you have more items. Again, just stressing the point that this is a key thing to understand. The more you loot, the harder it will be to get out. Okay, so we'll go core fleet. Okay, so here we can see that we have some time to prepare. So this is the portion of the thing where you would start building your defenses, but you can only build according to how much material you have. So if you don't have a lot of material, you won't be able to place down many of your things here. Now you'll have your base, but you'll also have these other additional things that you'll be able to construct, and you get them from these little computers, but that's something that you will research and build in your base. And you can see here, this is a Decipher smart stake. Placing this in my base will allow me to build 10 smart walls. So I'll be able to place that down. And the same thing again with these ones here. Now, alternatively, additionally, you will get some free ones that you can place down without cost of material that you will get as a risk assessment award or a risk award throughout playing, but that's just a quick little rundown of that. So the idea here is we want to try to survive this wave in order to get extracted. Now, everything is on the line here. If we lose this, everything that we collected and looted is basically gone. However, if you find yourself losing the battle and you know you can't win and you want to hang on to your character, there is a way to start again. You would just go exit. Don't hit abandon tour. Just hit exit to main menu. And if we do that, we go confirm. Because the game only saves between each section or that part where you're at the table, if we go continue, I'll just give you an example so you know what I mean. You'd come back to the table before you started that round and you can go interact and try it again. There is another way to reload an old save because they back up all your saves, but I'll make another video for that. But at least this way you'll get another crack to give it a go, and you can just do that till you get it right. However, do note that the intention is to have severe consequences for losing, but however you play, it's up to you. So whatever you want to do, really up to you. Now, the other thing I can't stress enough of when you first start out is ammo. Now, you'll start off with your basic base access to one ammo chest where you can produce it for 100 material. You can see up here at the moment, I don't have enough material, so I can't produce any ammo. But as you kill more of the AI aliens or whatever you want to call them, you will get material from killing them or from your turrets killing them. It allows you to build more ammo. Now, when you first start off, you will find ammo very scarce, so make sure you bring tons with you as you go throughout your early on missions, and eventually you will get access to stacks of these by building them yourself, crafting them, and then you'll have access to plenty of ammo. So here we can build one, and that will appear in this ammo crate, which I'll just show you where it is down here in my base. They are sort of in one level down, sort of in the center, but you'll come here and you will pick up your ammo. And the other thing you'll need to do is you'll need to manually load your turrets when you first start out. When they run out, because when they run out, they'll point the barrels down, which will be an indication that it's out of ammo. So you'll have to manually keep track of your turrets and feed them ammo yourself, as well as your own gun. You'll have to supply ammo. Now, the good thing is all these different turrets all take the same ammo. The artillery will take artillery shells, which is a different ammo system, but pretty much everything here will just take the same ammo. So nice and simple in that way. But just to highlight the fact that your ammo is going to be a big determining factor and how you manage it early on, then it becomes a non-issue. But definitely something you need to be aware of, that you'll have to build ammo and you can craft it manually like that, or you can go into your command mode, click on your it's called supply. I suggest having it microed, so you can hit one of your micro buttons and then you can hit D and that will build one. You press it again, that will build from another ammo supply, and so on, and then you'll be able to go and pick it up manually. Now, there are things later in the game which are called auto loaders, where you would just load that up and that would feed all ammo to all these different turrets here, but that's a tutorial for another time. But that just gives you an idea. Ammo is very important. Make sure you focus on that and keep that in mind, especially if you're trying to do a more challenging and longer tour. The other thing to note is you can go into command mode at any time throughout this battle unless there's severe weather that prevents you from doing so. But as the battle goes on, keep in mind that you can keep building stuff that you have access to throughout the battle. And if it dies, then you can build it again and so on. So the whole time you're fighting, you can also be building and expanding, similar to an RTS game. Now, the other thing to note is there'll be forward bases where you will be building certain other buildings to sort of mount your first defense, then you fall back to another one and so on until it gets to your main base. Depending on how it's set up, that will be just something to keep in mind. Now, the other important thing is if you want to get your loot out of your end day, generally you won't get access to these large recovery capsules. That's something you'll get from those. That's one of those things you'll get from those risk cards. You may get one that will drop a large recovery capsule for you. Otherwise, you'll just have to carry what you have or what you get from this mode or the extraction day. You'll have to keep on yourself to take it home because there'll be a lot of things drop and there'll be a lot of potential other items you can take with you. Later on in the game, you will have options to get these drone things where you can put stuff inside them if you have enough power, and they can also take those home for you. So just some things to note there. Also, don't forget you have a special ability on your command center, Shockwave, which will deal immense damage to enemies within the X boost field. So that's something I always forget to use. So that's a huge thing that will do a huge amount of damage within its field. I can't actually see our field right now being quite big, so just something to keep in mind. We have a huge potential there to do quite a lot of damage in our surrounding area, but it does cost power. Now, another thing to be mindful on, as you go on your travel, you can get materials from wrecks or scrap metal, and you can convert that at the cost of power into material. So if you're low on materials, you can scrap something like this and then you would get material. You can also get wood that will give you some lumber, which is important to build material crates. There will also be these abandoned Denium containers which contain material which can be mined if you have the appropriate mining research or tech, but that's an advanced thing. We won't worry about that. Now, another important aspect to these building of your base, which I should have mentioned before, is stairs. If your stairs get destroyed, say these two stairs get destroyed, you will lose power to your second level. It is basically your electrical wire, if you will, that transforms the power from the bottom to the next level. So you lose these two stairs, level 2 loses its power. If I lost these two stairs, level 3 would lose its power. Just keep in mind your stairs need to be protected or be in a good position. As you can see here, we've got a fair bit of material from all the AI that we've annihilated, again allowing us to build more things. Now, power is much harder to come by, but you can click on your command center, and if you have enough material, you can convert the material resources into power. So something you should do as you get more or you have excess materials, you can convert it to power. And power is useful for things like getting material out, using your cargo drone, for using your shockwave ability, for using area scan, and so on. So keep that in mind. Power is pretty important in the heat of the battle, giving you access to certain functionality. Now, another thing that's important is to note if that you have the correct keys, you can get access to this room here in this particular map, which I didn't have a key, which has tons and tons of very useful stuff to use and take back early on. Unfortunately, you cannot blow this door up, not that I know of. Okay, so the timer has started, so now the enemy's going to be coming in. There's only going to be 1 or 2 drop ships, but this is just to give you an idea. And again, if you had a lot of loot, you would have a ton of enemies coming in. Now, the important thing to understand is that you have these expansion areas where you can build your base. So you can start your defense way up here, way before they even get to your main base. So the more difficult it is, the tent will force you to sort of build up here and start a base here or anything else. So this sort of combines the tower defense, the FPS, the strategy, everything all into one is this tour mode. So we'll go through and we'll kill these guys. We've only got a few that we'll have to go through, and we'll clean them up very easily because we have quite an advanced gun. We'll just go through and nuke them. We've just got 22 seconds before we have to get evacuated. And that just means we complete this and we can go to the next stage of actually using all the resources and loot that we've gathered to craft, research, etc. So by killing all these guys, we will ensure that we get an additional. So here we have a choice of evacuating now or hanging around. We're going to hang around because we want to spend some time collecting all the good things that we can find around the map. Now, you could evac straight away, and that would get you all the materials and all the loot that you collected. So for instance, we killed this guy, so we get a bit of extra stuff. So if you can, it's good to hang around and get all the bits that you can from around the map. Because for instance, if we go into the map mode and we hit scan, you can see there's a ton of stuff in here that's quite useful early on. And anything else that has dropped up here. Plenty of stuff up there. So you can do a little bit of looting on this map as well. Good to utilize that, especially early on. Every little bit will help. But now we've completed it and we have the evac process. So now we can leave. Now this is the very basic version of this. It gets more advanced and you'll be able to loot a lot more and get a lot more things, but we'll come back to that in a later guide. But for now, this is just completing the process. So we'll head over here, close the hatch, and this means all the stuff that we've looted, we actually get to keep. Now do note, you can completely lose your base in this process, but if you have gotten to the point of evacuating, you can evacuate with your base destroyed. And I believe you still keep your operative and the gear your operative has, but I believe you will lose your loot if your base is destroyed. So keep that in mind. You want to keep your base alive. And that completes that Bua cycle, which gives us an overview of how much loot we got from it, which in this case, bugger all, tells us what items we got, its value. And then we can go to research to build things, to research things, trade, to sell, buy. You'll also get a point to hire a new operative, I believe. If you've got enough points, you go to recruit. Yeah, we didn't get enough, so we didn't get to recruit anyone. Don't always get a recruiting point, but generally each tour you do, you should. If you've probably got enough money, there's something there. I don't know exactly how it works, but that gives you just a very brief and basic understanding of how this game works, or at least how this initial part is. Understanding the map, what the different buildings do, and some of the functionality. This is very much a beginner's guide. There is so much to this game, so we're definitely going to expand on this. If you did find this very useful or useful at all, please give us a like, subscribe. Really appreciate your support. I'll be doing a lot of this content on this game. Even though it's not very popular, I freaking love it. It's amazing. I think it's something that will appeal to more people as it develops on, because there have been a fair few issues. But for me, it has been a thrill and a lot of fun to play. But we'll come back with some more tutorials soon. Hope this was helpful. Thank you very much, and we'll talk again soon.